So now it's time for the Tikkuni elevator drush on the Zohar. Now, as I approach this, I'm thinking, I'm really not exactly sure how to handle this because the Zohar is so deep, the light that is shining, and we have little background in the Ari who is coming to explain this to make it possible for us to have some understanding. But the Ari is also a lifetime endeavor to try to figure out or try to understand and appreciate all the different nuance that's in his vocabulary. So I think, well, if I'm speaking to people who don't have a deep background in the Ari, then how am I going to do it? What am I going to say? So think about something that Rabbi Mimran has said. It's just like a big wheel, and it's turning. And say it's a Ferris wheel, but you're not on it. You're just watching it turn. It's turning the reality of life, and there's so many different things that we have to understand, be able to see. But if you don't get on the Ferris wheel, then you'll go someplace else, and you'll never be able to come close. Because look, keep talking about the onion, but I just like the metaphor so much. That for you to be able to get into the middle of the onion, to the essence of the onion, to really taste the splendor of Hashem, you have to start on the outside. And a lot of times the outside is something that we call, say, Roshi tables, or abbreviations of names. We don't know what they mean. Or they're like chapter headings. I read the chapter headings. Ever seen a book on something that's, a Torah book? Say, for example, something in Torah. And you see all the abbreviations there, or all the chapter headings, and you don't know what they're talking about. And so therefore it prevents you from being able to get in further. But a person who's really drawn towards God will get on the Ferris wheel. And even though that it doesn't all fit together because it takes a while. Remember the story we told earlier. The Rabbi Nachman was saying that if you want to find the essence of your soul, which is the God that's within you, the godliness that's within you, it takes time. It's little by little you get there. So I figure, well, what have I got to lose? So I'll read you the outside, that is the psukim of the Zohar for this week's Parshas Titzaveh. And then I'll read some of the Ari. The Matuk Medivash, incidentally, is a person, Daniel Frisch, who's passed away on the day that he completed his Pirush on the Zohar. He died. So it made me sound that, say, like he suddenly, suddenly he died. But could be he was an old man. I'm not sure, really. And he pushed himself to the point where he was going to actually get it done. And he has children, and they helped him. And I think they're still out there, and they're still putting things together. As we know, there's a Sidurim from him and all different kinds of things that he put together. At any rate, his Pirush it's magnificent, his knowledge of the Ari. And not just the Ari, but also the different Mefarshim that try to understand the Eitz Chaim and so on and so forth. Well, let me start and with this word of advice. Get on the Ferris wheel. You hear some words that you don't know. You don't know what he's talking about. Now, a little background here. In the Ari, in the very beginning of the Ari, let me close the door open here. In the very beginning of the Ari, he talks about a subject that I would really like to write a book about, but we'll see exactly what it's going to be. It's called Shar Agulim. And this Shar explains the reality of creation. Everything you need to know about it, except it's very, very, very elusive because it's talking about making something out of nothing, which is not really a very easy concept to come by. But it has two different forms that it wants to tell you about. One form is the concept of a circle or a ball. A ball is just a circle in 360 all the way around. It's every place is a ball. It's a solid ball, solid circle. The other one is a line. Now the Ari explains these in detail, and I often like to say that the ball is, as it developed from that point to where we're at, on the outside of the onion, that was a very incipience of the reality of something that's something. The that the ball is actually a concept of cycles. So, like I mentioned before, that the world is turning. It's a ball. The world is a ball. So it's the whole thing there where he explained to you what the balls, there are balls within balls within balls within balls. And on the outside of it is the force of creation, which is the Ein Sof Baruch Hu. And into the ball, in order to sustain it, he brings a line. But first is a ball. Now, the ball is a concept of cycles. And it seems to me, and since I'm not reading this anyplace else, but it seems to me that this is the concept of femininity. What we say is feminine is a concept of cycles. You say that women cycle. And the thing that have to do with the house and bearing children inside of themselves, all encircling concepts. And we see this in great detail. Now, what developed out of the concept of balls through Avram Avinu and through Adam Rishon is we have the chart, the astrological chart of the first man, who was Adam Rishon. And at the moment that he and his wife, Chava, appeared in the world, that is the beginning of reality as we understand it in Jewish astrology. And that chart is a model for all other charts. Now, I'm not going to get into the detail of that because the concept of cycles, we just don't pay attention to it now. But we're in the 6th day of a 7th-day cycle. This number 7 comes up a lot. Also the number 10 and multiples of them and combinations of them and different kinds of forms of them are all aspects of cycles. And the fact that we're sitting on a ball that is cycling and also circling around circles, which are also circling and moving, is a whole concept of what we see as Malchus, is really femininity. Now, feeding into that, in order to sustain that cycle, though, you have a line. So the line is the line that the Ein Sof pipes into the center of it in order to sustain it. That's the best I can say about this. Without, really, boy, great Mekubalim have spent their lives pondering this and digging into it because it's so rich. But the Riga doesn't really talk about the astrological aspects of the cycles. We know that they're there, but he doesn't really talk about it. Instead, he talks about the line. The line is what we have. The line he calls, we have a name for it, it's called Ak. It's an abbreviation of the word Adam Kadmon. Primordial man, they say in different Kabbalah books that you might read. This is a line. And the line itself is pure Ein Sof. But by itself, it's nothing, because Ein Sof is nothing. It's just nothing. So it builds around itself like a pencil that has a lead shaft in the middle of it. And then there's wood around it, and then you could make all kinds of different arrangements to it. And that's really what we talk about when we speak about the Kabbalah of the Rebbe. He doesn't teach that much in regards to the cycles. But the combination of these two elements, which you could see the difficulty between today on the outside of the onion where we live, between men and women that we have getting along. Because women are cycling and men are going straight ahead. And those two things really, they work together beautifully, but to make them work together is not so easy because they're so different. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus, or whatever metaphor you want to say, but they're two sides of a coin. It's only one coin. Adam Rishon was made with a woman attached to him. This is a whole mystical inyan by itself, which is called the Nesira, which takes place in some ways every day. Some ways we see it really strongly on Rosh Hashanah, different places. It's a whole subject of its own, not for what we want to say here. Because what we want to say here is the beginning of an idea of this Zohar, the Zohar in Titzaveh. Because if we imagine that what we ultimately want is to bring the maximum godliness, looks like in a straight line, into this world, which is a cycle, and it's constantly moving and changing, just going around and around and around. As we see in the Rebbeinu HaKodesh, and how he's teaching us how we need to find ourselves in the midst of this cycle. Well, the putting of the two of them together, that is, if you can mate the straight line with the cycle or the ball, you have produced something which is called a yichud, a oneness. Because in actuality, there's only one Ein Sof Baruch Hu, but we see in the very beginning that he starts saying that there are different qualities of the way that he built the world, which are male and female. Now, we don't necessarily like men and women like us, because they're a master. We had this word parts of before, so there's a lot more to be said about what the word parts of means. But it's a system, at any rate. It's a system that we live within now. There is a master parts of. There's a parts of that is very much like men and women, but it's not physical at all. But it's this parts of that we need to deal with. And it's this parts of that we need to be able to put together. And it's this parts of that our prayers and our learning is able to make whole and work. This parts of is called this aspect. There are two partsufim. One is called Zer Anpin, which we call Zah, which is abbreviation. And the other one is his wife, who is called his Nukva, his female counterpart. And together they're called Zun, Zohar v'Nuk. That's how the Kabbalists talk about it. We all understand this. This is a part of each and every one of us, as all of us have within us Zohar v'Nuk. But the way that these things work together, the way that the male and the female have to work together. Look, the female is a ball which is empty, right? From the very beginning, right? There's no light of the Ein Sof. She needs to get light within her in order to reproduce. It's not so easy because the forces that the way that the world is created wants to make this reproduction either in a haphazard way, an unclean way, or in not at all, or some kind of an abbreviated concept of that. The pure yichud, what we call the yichud of Zohar v'Nuk, of female and male and female, is what we're working on. Oh, listen to this. So here comes the Zohar. I give a little background there so we can talk about a little bit and not try to get too much blown away. Remember, you're reading chapter headings. V'ata Titzaveh b'nei Yisrael. This is a quote from the Parsha. And it says, V'ata rav hakrev alecha es Aaron achicho, that you should bring near your brother Aaron. So that's the quote from the Pasuk, from the Parsha. And that's a very common that the Zohar wants to take a quote. Now remember, we have in the concept here something called Pardes. Everybody probably heard this. If you haven't, then Pardes just stands for four different ways of understanding the Torah. The first one is Pardes, begins with a P sound, a Pei, and it stands for Pshat, the simple meaning. You read something, you read the Chumash, the 5 books of Moses, you try to understand what's going on there. The next one's a remez, because a lot of times they'll take the numerical combination of words or compare words in many different kinds of ways to show you that there's an interconnection between them. This may have something to do, so like they used to have the Torah, what do they call it, the Torah, I remember his hidden combinations of names and numbers in the Torah. And it went out of style because the Gentiles did it too, and just didn't work. But at any rate, the Ari doesn't just use when he explains, he doesn't just use any combination of numbers and letters. He has a specific reason why he uses things. So they're actually constructs of reality. So it's not just a game he's playing. Then there's drashos. Because once you see the remez, then you have to see that there's something really big coming out of it. Then finally there's another letter. That's the letters, Pardes is Pshat. The next one's called a Remez, that goes with the letter R. And the next one is called Drush. It's an explanation of this. You can really bring out some unbelievable ideas out of it. And the last one is Sod. Sod means the hidden part, the secret. Because the secrets are really actually, what is the biggest secret in the world? Is the fact that we have a neshama, right? The neshama is made into the malchus of Etzilus. The malchus of Etzilus has inside of it the Ein Sof Baruch Hu. That's the biggest secret in the world. So we can find this. And we can find out what the Chumash is saying, or any of the Ksuvim, or any of the different parts of the Torah are saying. If we could take some words out of that, we may be able to find secrets. So that's what's happening all throughout the Zohar. Zohar is only about that. And again, once again, we need to talk about the Ari and the times that the Ari lived, and what he actually meant, and who he was, and what he came from. He came to really open this road up, not so simply. Great people like Rabbeinu HaKodesh who came along, the Baal Shem Tov, that came along, and they were able to open it up even for us. So let's read the passage. Like I said, it begins like this: Va'at Titzaveh es b'nei Yisrael, va'ata hakrev alechas Aaron achicho. So bring Aaron, your brother, bring him near. Amir Rebbe Chia. So Rebbe Chia, who's one of the group that learned with Rebbe Shimon. So what's different about this pasuk? Is there something different about this pasuk than any other pasuk? Because it's written, and you uses the word you. Bring close to you. Then he says other places. Then it has another place. So this word ata is found. Another pasuk. Titzaveh is b'nei Yisrael, another place that you command the b'nei Yisrael. That's our part. That's over here. Kach l'cha b'samim rosh marodrors, and you should take for yourself different kinds of spices. Alakulo b'razi eloi. Every time you see the word ba'ata leading off an idea, then it says this is a secret in this word. So what is it? That you should join the shechinta with you. To him, to it, to you. Join the shechinta together. Now, this is like with this. So we're saying this idea about the balls, right? And we say that the balls is malchus, and the balls is a concept of cycles, and we're standing on a ball, and the ball is rolling around in space. And then he says that you, Moshe Rabbeinu, you should bring this ball, not this ball, he says, but you should join yourself to this shechina. The shechina is the concept, the feminine concept. So we're going to go on and just read the Zohar a little bit more. When you say the word ata, or the va'ata, you're talking about joining the upper light and the lower light. We're not saying right now what the upper light is. What the lower light is, it's usually Bina and Malchus. Kamadat Amar, like you saying, Va'ata mechayes kulam. So Ata, you are that essence that brings life into all of them. So then there's the reason why, but it says, it doesn't say V'hikriv Akron Achicho, because it says Va'ata. But it's V'isar B'nei Yisrael because it says Va'ata, not with just saying it out. So you should call Chachmei Lev, and you should speak to all of the Chachmei. It always has an ata with it. What's the reason why this word ata is used? Begin to hachu zimna sharya shimsha b'sihura, because at this moment the sun and the moon are together. The sun is a concept of the line. As a line is always shining the light of the Ein Sof Baruch. When he could take that light and he could put it inside of the existing cycle, just think about the concept of cycles, then you're making a yichud there. You're putting Hashem, that is how put male and female together, is making possibilities for the whole business to work, to bring down the shefa from the Ein Sof Baruch. So he said, again, the sun is a concept of a light that shines continuously. The moon, no, it's constantly changing. That's a concept of the cycle. And all of them join together as one. The Sharia al Manasa de Rovado, in order to dwell or to supervise all the Amuna of the Manusa, which is the craftsmanship that was taken that was needed in order to put things together. Because in order for things to actually be built, what are we talking about? What are we trying to build here? We're trying to build the neshama of the Jewish people. So we see over in the other story, some of the Jewish people is the ultimate thing that we want to have to become close to. But we see over here that you have to join a male, female in order to make this happen. Now let me see if I can throw in some words that we tried to elucidate at the very beginning. He says, Hine inyan yichud zun. So this is the marriage of male and female, the master parts of the universe in Itzilus. Haniskarim bedrosh zo, that it's mentioned in this explanation, this drosh. Remember that concept of drosh again. Ein yichud zuna gedolim. It's not the zuna gedolim because there's more than one zun. Elo hu yichud shel Yaakov Leah. Okay, this is a whole other story. Who's Yaakov? Who's Leah? So some kind of mating between Yaakov and Leah. Is it the Yaakov and Leah in our Chumash? His first wife is Leah. So is that what we're talking about? Does it mean like we say, well, we're talking about they got married? Or is Yaakov and Leah, the essence of them in this world of secrets, is something else? And that's really what it is. This is in Shar Lamed Beis, Perak Aleph of the Eitz Chaim. This is what it says over there. So they're in the desert, right? The yichud, or they call it the zivug, the mating of the spiritual female, the spiritual male world. Is Yaakov and his woman, which is here in this case is called Rachel. Hanikras Dor Hamidbar. The woman there in this case is Yaakov, whatever the secret of Yaakov is, and another secret which is called the Dor Midbar. V'kol Hanishomos Shal Dor Midbar. All of the souls that were of our people that were in the desert, Kulam Hayu Nimshachos Mezivug Zeh. All of them were developed and related and born out of what is called the Yichud of Yaakov and Leah, who's also called the generation of the desert. The Chain Nikras al Shemam. So therefore, it's called by their names. It's called by the name of the generation of the desert, because the generation of the desert is represented by Leah, and we see that Leah is also the concept of the female counterpart to Yaakov. But again, we're not talking about the Yaakov and Leah only that existed as the father of our people, father and mother of our people, but we're also talking about a spiritual concept that is words that are given to us by the Ari. Let them be chapter headings for something that God will bless you, and that you'll learn later on in more detail what we're talking about, what this relationship is. And anyway, thank you very much for joining today. And remember, the main thing is to enjoy. Thank you very much. Good Shabbos.